welcome to the Banker's Daily Sibos Roundup. My name is Michelle Price. I am business editor of The Banker, and I'm joined here today by Martin Wilson, Chief Commercial Officer at VocaLink. Martin, tell me, how have you found the conference so far? What messages are you getting back from the market?
Well, there's no denying that much of the feedback around this conference has been how quiet it is relative to previous conferences. And, you know, we have to acknowledge it's perhaps a little bit more subdued. However, the main topics for conversation have been very genuine and very real, primarily around two things. I think there's an element of pride, I guess, in the transaction banking world, that through this storm that we've ridden through, transaction banking has been seen to be the shining star in many of the banks and has ridden the storm very, very well. But as a result, that brings its own pressures. That area still has to, therefore, manage its costs of operation, and it's now found itself with an obligation to generate new ideas and fresh thinking about how to bring new revenue into the banks. Mm-hmm. And they're the themes that we're hearing at this conference.
Okay, that's interesting. So transaction banking is a victim of its own success, as it were. Obviously, payments has been a big issue in recent years, but I think payments have been put on the back burner in the last year because of, capital constraints and so on. Do you think that the discussion points around payments are coming back to the fore?
Yes, indeed. It's how to use the transaction banking, how to use payment as a way of generating consumer interest and corporate interest and of course, new customers and new revenues for the banks. And in that respect, one of the key things that VocaLink has been discussing this year is 1 year on from the launch of faster payments in the UK, how has that enterprise been received in that market? And yesterday we launched a report on the progress of faster payments there. Research done in association with PwC and VocaLink, and the results have been quite surprising. Whereas you might have thought that it was an expensive new infrastructure to lay down and expensive for the banks to change their own systems, our research has been surprising in finding that many banks have been able to adapt their systems very readily and very easily, and of course very cheaply. The other good news from that is that over the last 12 months, many banks have moved away from thinking of faster payments as a regulatory compliance exercise and actually begun to make profitable business from it. New propositions, new revenue streams, new ideas that they can offer both to their consumers and to their corporate customers. So the research has drawn out the real benefits of a system like that. Mm-hmm. Now, what we're talking about at VocaLink now is how we can proliferate that capability into other markets and into the wider transaction banking arena. Mm-hmm.
Great, so there's lots more discussion points there. Some of the people that I've chatted to have felt that to a large extent faster payments has kind of put SEPA to shame a little bit, in so much as it's been, rolled out with, some alacrity. Generally speaking, is the feeling in the industry that faster payments has been a success?
I think there's definitely yes. Clearly there's some education still to be done because there's still a lack of understanding about how you can utilise this capability. I'd prefer to think of this as, again, typically infrastructure that is provided to enable banks to deliver new propositions to their customers. So new channels or existing channels can be exploited further through this infrastructure. Mm-hmm. Now, as far as putting SEPA to shame, I think that's a slightly harsh. And in actual fact, I'm always one that looks to the opportunity rather than the criticism. And the opportunity here is that what SEPA has achieved is to be able to lay down some key standards which actually enable European banks to take advantage of a variety of payment services and in the fullness of time could easily take advantage of a real-time single immediate payment service within the boundaries of the SEPA rules that already exist. Mm-hmm. So there's a great opportunity there, and let's look at the future and the opportunities in building the capabilities and building on the success of transaction banking over the last year, rather than finding ways to put ourselves down.
Okay, and final question. The crisis, I think, has probably highlighted the importance, more generally speaking, of markets infrastructure. Do you feel like, as a part of the market infrastructure, the regulators and the policymakers are starting to perhaps value a little bit more those pieces of infrastructure, and do you think that there's a kind of welcome debate around that now post the crisis?
I think the beginnings of, I would have to say, I think I would welcome greater debate and greater recognition for the role that market infrastructures can play. One of the other areas that we are promoting in this Sibos is the service bureau provided by VocaLink, which enables banks actually to connect to many services, many euro services, many sterling services, many payment services throughout the world through one single channel into VocaLink, so that we can provide that infrastructure capability to help banks reduce their cost of operation and access new services for their own customers. And that's an example of where the infrastructures can play a greater role. I welcome the progress so far in terms of regulators and central banks paying attention to the role of infrastructures. I think there's more we can do, and I think there's a greater part we can play in that wider debate.
Martin Wilson, VocaLink, thanks very much.
Thank you.